ground fighting is a controversial issue with a lot of people in martial arts. Strictly speaking, ground is not traditional in any martial arts system because martial arts systems were originally designed for battlefield conflict, right? In other words, we're an army, we're on a battlefield, we have weapons. So, in those kind of things, if you fall down, you're going to die most likely. You'll get run over, you'll get stabbed with a spear, but also like from battlefield planning, as some of you might know if you've been in the military, right? Casualties are an accepted calculation. They're an expected calculation, part of the process. So from a general's point of view, we don't need to teach people ground fighting. Some of them are going to die, and some of them are not. When martial arts, the history of martial arts, no matter what it is, whether it's European, Japanese, Chinese, wherever, is martial arts trickles down from the military into the general population. When it gets into the general population, and it's you and me using martial arts to defend ourselves, well, we're interested in the fighter surviving, because the fighter is us. So in traditional Chinese martial arts, there's some ground fighting, right? Generally speaking, you'll see things like I've done before where you're on the ground and the person's standing above you and you kick and sweep and you try to get back up on your feet. You don't see a lot of ground grappling. Again, because they expect that there's still weapons involved. It's the same in jiu-jitsu. If you look at judo, jiu-jitsu before it became judo, and when it was a battlefield art, like what they call a choreo, like old school jiu-jitsu, not a lot of ground. So later, when people with weapons stopped doing jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu started becoming something that civilians were doing and like local gangsters and stuff, there was more and more ground. Every Chinese martial arts system has throws. Every single one. If someone tells you that their system doesn't have throws, be very, very skeptical. Very, very skeptical. Think about the format that was established for Chinese martial arts, the fight, whether you call it Sancho or Sanda, has throws. Most points are for when you throw somebody and you remain standing. But, and that's usually like 3 points. But you get a point if you throw them and you land on top of them, because that recognizes the reality of the fight. From a military point of view, for example, maybe I have a gun, I'm in the army or I'm in the police, but you grab me or we get to it, some tussle. But if I throw you and I remain standing, I can then pull out that gun or pull a knife, kill you. It's good, right? Let's say I'm not military, I don't have a gun, I don't have a weapon, but you grab me and I throw you down and I remain on top of you, I can stomp on you, right? So that's good. If I fall on top of you, I can still do something, right? But if I fall down, and what happens is that everybody inevitably focuses on their throws and being the guy on top, or being the guy that never falls down. And then people go, well, I don't want to fight on the ground. Well, just because you don't want to fight on the ground doesn't mean you're not going to fight on the ground. To paraphrase a very famous book, just because you're not interested in the ground doesn't mean the ground is not interested in you. So, we have to have some techniques. We don't need to specialize in it, we don't need to. And again, maybe people are right, like you don't want to be like a jiu-jitsu person that chooses to make the fight about the ground. Even though I would argue that that was never quite what jiu-jitsu was about. But you can't completely ignore it. As far as what we do, Shuai Jiao, through the Chang lineage, through Master Jiao, right? When it went to the Central Wushu Institute, where Chen Dongsheng was a instructor, again, they were trying to make it a modern martial art that they could use for the police and for the military. And they looked at judo, because judo had taken traditional jiu-jitsu and made it a modern accepted martial art and accepted sport. And they actually paid to send people from the Wushu Institute to Japan to study judo. So, you read the accounts of this, and they, Shuai Jiao people were good standing up, and standing up wrestling is standing up wrestling. But they had no idea what was going on when they went to the ground, when they were training judo, Kano's judo. So they started adding in ground. So we have documentation that starting in the 20s, in the late 20s, early 30s, in particularly our lineage of Shuai Jiao, they added in ground. Now, of course, we're in 2023. It's a different world. Just like at one point, plumbing was an outhouse. You went outside and pooped in a hole in the floor. Like you can talk about tradition, but we have different technology. So we want to add more and more jiu-jitsu, but more and more ground. But we want to do it for our use, which is self-defense. We don't want to become like modern sport jiu-jitsu people looking for submission grappling. That's not what we're concerned with here. We're concerned with if you end up on the ground, how to escape, how to get back up on your feet. In a lot of ways, though, like what the original Gracie family jiu-jitsu was, it was not all this crazy, like submission only. It has to work when there's strikes. It has to work when there's dangers.